I know there's some new people, so I'll just do a quick review of kind of where all this came from. In 1993, I was introduced to a pharmaceutical company here in Dallas by the name of Carrington Labs. They had made the discovery of the medically active molecule in the Alovéa plant. They had stabilized it for the very first time in history. And it had the most profound immune response of anything that they had ever seen. And of course, they're pharmacologists. So anything in medicine, nothing touched what this molecule did. It was a long chain carbohydrate. They named it ace-mannan. And they spent a couple of $100 million on defining its mechanism of action. In other words, what did this molecule do in human physiology that changed everything? And it's a structure-function phenomena. So it is the structure of the molecule that causes the function of a large white blood cell in your immune system called a macrophage. That's sort of the front line of defense in the innate immune system is the macrophage. And it orchestrates all of the immunomodulatory functions of the immune system. Now, there's a whole presentation on the science of this, so I'm not going to get into that today. But the reason that I was invited to meet with them is that their goal was to bring ace-mannan to the marketplace as a drug. I mean, that's where all the money is, right? So they started off in the vertical market of topical wound care. They got it approved by the USDA, which is the United States Department of Agriculture, as a wound care technology medical device. And so they could sell it for advanced wound care and burn centers and hospitals. The second market they went into was the agriculture market. So they got an injectable form of ace-mannan approved for the treatment of cancer in animals. And again, that was USDA, United States Department of Agriculture. When they went to get it approved through the FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration, they were blocked. And the reason they were blocked is it didn't fit the criteria that had been established for drugs for human consumption. And there are two things they didn't qualify. Number one, you have to prove a toxicity threshold for a human drug. Because all drugs are toxic, and you have to know how toxic your investigative new drug is, and you have to prove it before you can go into phase 2 studies. The problem with ace-mannan from that perspective is it's completely non-toxic. So it didn't matter how much they injected into laboratory mice, they couldn't kill a mouse. So they couldn't establish what is called an LD50, a lethal dose that kills half the mice. And then they used that threshold for human consumption. So they couldn't kill a mouse, and they thought that's not all bad, right? The second thing is that you have to show how your drug alters the process of a disease or a biomarker of a disease. In other words, drugs alter physiology. Nutrients support physiology. And what they found with ace-mannan is it didn't alter anything. It supported the body's normal functions of defense and repair. So they struck out in both lanes. And the FDA said, we don't think you have a drug. It didn't matter the health benefits that came from it. It didn't meet the criteria of what the pharmaceutical industry had established for drug approval. Okay, that was to their disadvantage. It was to our benefit. Because in 1993, I licensed the exclusive rights of that first patented stabilized ace-mannan and started distributing it around the world as a dietary supplement, not as a drug. And we started building a company that ultimately went into 26 countries. And it was just a phenomenal success. In fact, in 2005, Business Week, which is a business periodical here in the States, listed us as the fifth best small company in America. Meaning small, meaning below $1 billion a year. And so we had quite a success story. But along the way, what I found out is that this molecule could enhance the health of anybody, whether you had the money that could afford it or not. And I found out that 6 to 7 million children a year were dying of immune deficiency related issues. So kids are malnourished, they're exposed to toxicity, poor sanitation. All of those cause a condition called immune deficiency. And when kids' immune systems crash, they become susceptible to every kind of chronic and infectious disease. So what we would consider as a common cold can easily be converted to pneumonia, for instance, in these kids. So they get sick and they just don't get better. And we realized we had the opportunity to impact those children. So I started in 1999 a not-for-profit organization called Manna Relief. And just like every other charity, I started raising money to make this ACE Manna technology available to the world's most vulnerable, medically fragile children. And here's what's kind of interesting. In developing nations of the world, where they're not concerned, with the cost of healthcare because they don't even have it, they are wide open for suggestions. Whatever works is what they'll endorse. And so I found favor with heads of state from countries all over the world. I've just produced this little booklet, and you'll see it come out very quickly. It's Manna Relief. It's our story. But let me just read a couple of excerpts. This is from our distribution partner for Manna Relief in Mexico. It's the former president of Mexico, Vicente Fox, and his wife, Marta. And he says, one of the biggest challenges we'll face in the 21st century will be the epidemic growth of both chronic and infectious disease and pandemics. Our best protection for both of these challenges is an optimally functioning immune system. For the last 10 years, Marta and I have seen firsthand through our work with Manna Relief the impact that immune optimizing ACE Manna support has made on some of our country's most medically fragile children. I believe that ACE Manna will become the most important strategy for protecting health of nations, especially the world's most vulnerable children. Now, that's the former president of the 5th largest economy in the world saying this will be the technology that will lead the future in terms of the transformation of global health. I'll read just a couple more. This is from Uganda. And this is the president of Uganda, who is a man by the name of President Museveni, and his ambassador to the United States, Edith Sampala. And Edith actually writes this. She says, President Museveni wants to thank Manna Relief for its large contribution of ACE Manna and immune support. It has made a more significant quality of life impact on our country's most health-challenged children than any other form of intervention that we have ever experienced. And then to go along with that is their Minister of Health, which is this gentleman right here in Uganda. And he says, while ACE Manna is not a drug nor intended for the treatment of cure of a disease, its ability to enhance the body's ability to heal itself has provided an unprecedented quality of life impact and new hope. We have a moral responsibility to integrate ACE Manna into every form of treatment that we develop. I'll read one more from Kenya. This is Dr. Benakinga, the medical director of hospitals all over southwestern Kenya. He said, we gave ACE Manna to our most critically ill AIDS children in order to help activate their fragile immune systems. They arrive at our hospitals at death's door, but to our amazement, these children were up and walking within 2 to 3 weeks. In all of my years of working with this virus, I have never seen anything like this. ACE Manna is the most important natural discovery of our time. So when you put it into the hands, whether it's global leaders or medical professionals who are absolutely looking for the truth, what you find is they gravitate to the integrative approach of Ace Mannon over any kind of drug therapy because it actually works better. So I built the company and I built Mannon Relief for years. The problem that I had with Mannon Relief was funding. And like all charities, you have to go out and raise money. And I realized that I could never raise enough money to meet the needs of millions of children. In 2012, President Fox invited me to the first international symposium on a new concept in business called social entrepreneurship, social business. And what social business is, it leverages, it's entrepreneurs like all of us on this phone that start businesses that leverage the power of the marketplace to provide sustainable solutions to the world's biggest problems. And at that conference, we looked at the world's top 3 problems. One of the top 3, according to this whole group of leaders from business and medicine and banking and industry, was healthcare. That modern healthcare is in trouble. Our philosophy of waiting until people get sick and then trying to medicate them back to health is not working. And guys, this was before COVID, right? And they said it's not only not working very well, it's financially unsustainable. We cannot afford that false doctrine. I mean, there's always going to be a place for medicine and there's always going to be a place for pharmaceutical drugs, but as the primary focus of healthcare, it's not effective. And so they said, we need to find ways for the body to heal itself and enhance those capabilities. And that's when they introduced me. And I shared the technology of Ace Mannon, the hundreds of millions of dollars that had been put into its research. And they all agreed that we needed to start a social business that would make this technology available to the world, and through a buy one, give one strategy of social giving, link the sale of product to the needs of the world's most vulnerable children. So in other words, let our business fund our charity. And so that's what we decided to do. Now, from that meeting, I came back, met with my board of directors at my previous company, and said, why don't we do this as a company? Why don't we embrace this social business concept and launch it to the world? But I'd taken my company public, which means in the United States, your obligation is to only one thing: shareholder equity. Every penny of profit has to go into reinvestment or distributed as to shareholders for their equity. And so feeding kids and shareholder equity lived on 2 different planets. And so it just wasn't going to work. So a few years after that, in 2014, I decided to resign from that company, start all over again, and build a company around the distribution through a social business model of our Ace Mannon. One of the very first things, then you'll see him on this call today too, Steve Burns and I did, is we went and revisited one of the original patent filers for Ace Mannon from the company Carrington Labs. These are the doctors that discovered the molecule, stabilized it, filed and received over 130 patents around the world on its various medical uses. And his name is Dr. Santiago Rodriguez. He was working on a 2nd generation Ace Mannon. And the 2nd generation means that they found out very specifically which molecular weights of Ace Mannon were actually causing the immune response. Once they knew that, they developed a new extraction process that elevated those immune fractions 4 to 5 times higher per gram than my original product that was called Manipole. And we talked to him about, what are you going to do with this new technology? And he said, I'm going to license it, just like we did the original technology to you. And we shared with him our passion for changing the world through the model of social business. And he and his wife were 100% on board with that concept. So we didn't buy the exclusive rights like we did the first time. They were donated to us, to our charity, Manna Relief. So Manna Relief owns the exclusive rights to the top immune enhancing technology that exists in the world today. And then from there, we decided that we did a pilot project to test out the marketing of social business. Once we felt that we had that really confirmed, then Manna Relief and another not-for-profit out of South Korea called Nations Changers actually funded the purchase of an existing company that we converted into the company that we now call Alovéa. So Alovéa as a corporate entity is less than a year old. And we have the exclusive rights to some of the world's most incredible nutritional technologies. They belong exclusively to us, whether it's immune enhancing, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant technologies, patented technologies that have been donated to us. Why? Because of who we are, because of what we want to do with a business that goes beyond the ability to just make money. And let me just kind of close with this. In the world today, we have a $10 trillion US dollar sick care industry that is in desperate need of transformation. And that's what President Fox was talking about. That's what leading economists all over the world are saying, especially with the advent of global pandemics like we're just experiencing right now with COVID. And if you look at the recent UN declarations, United Nations, they're saying, look, this isn't the end of the pandemic world. This is the beginning. We're going to see more viruses. They're going to be more contagious and more challenging. And then Lancet Medical Journal came out and said, if you think viruses are bad, here's what's coming. Drug-resistant forms of bacteria that will present the biggest challenge that modern medicine has ever seen. Because our antibiotics have been overused and some of the world's worst bacteria have found a way to mutate around the efficacy of our best antibiotics. They're predicting in the next 20 to 30 years that will kill more people than all viruses combined. And they said the only hope that we have is finding ways to enhance the body's normal immune responses to viruses and bacteria, as well as disease cells like cancer cells. And so that's the technology that we're bringing into the marketplace for such a time as this. Okay, there's a $10 trillion industry. Not one person wants to be a customer of that business. Nobody wants to be, sick. Nobody wants drugs, but it's a $10 trillion industry. Our opportunity, guys, is to share a story of hope with the world. If we get 1% of the sick population of the world to utilize, you don't even have to abandon medicine, just utilize our product, be proactive as an integrative approach to improving your health, that would create a $100 billion opportunity for our company. And I think it's there. And I think it's there for the taking. And I think the people that figure out how to tell our story in the most impactful way will transform the world. So it's an incredible financial opportunity for all of us. Where does all the money go? About 45% of all the money comes in, goes back to the people that help us tell the story. The rest of it pays for product, helps us nourish children, and funds our ministries. There is not one single shareholder in this company that we have to be worried about because our not-for-profits own this business. So guys, this is the most rewarding opportunity I think that has ever existed in business. I'm excited about your participation. And Frank, Marlene, Jeff, thanks for inviting me on the call today.